More people today identify as content creators than ever before. According to analysts at Goldman Sachs, more than 50 million people consider themselves to be content creators. And guess what? Most of these creators don't have any formal training in marketing, video editing, or communications. In the last 5 years, we've seen a boom of content creators and influencers who grew an audience by simply picking up their phone and filming a video. It is totally possible. And if you've been dabbling in content creation, but you're interested in taking things to the next level and treating this like a business, then you're in the right place. Because in today's episode, we're going to talk all about entering your entrepreneur era and how to build a business as a content creator that is sustainable and goes beyond a single viral video. Before we get into all of the tips and tea, let's do a little create and consume. So, what I've been creating this past week is a new blog post on Keep Calm and Chiffon, where I shared the best breweries in upstate New York. And I have been wanting to create this blog post for a little while now. Ever since we got a car back in 2021, which was when we moved to Hoboken and could actually swing a parking spot here compared to what it costs to park a car in New York City, we have been taking advantage of that and have done many trips to upstate New York. I, of course, go every March with all of the women on Andrew's side of the family. We do a little girls' trip and typically frequent Westkill and Hunter Mountain area. And then Andrew and I have also done some trips together as well. I've done 2 upstate getaways with my friend Devin, where she has kindly invited me along to press stays in the area. And I basically wanted to create a big master list of all of the breweries that I've been to and give a little bit more context about the background of how they got started and what types of beers they're known for and where they are located. So that if you're planning a trip upstate and you want to spend some time at a brewery, which is honestly a great place to get lunch, a lot of them have games, and it's a great way to support local businesses and taste some amazing craft beers. Now you have your little guide ready to go. So that is live on my blog. I will leave a link to that post in the show notes in case you'd like to check it out. As far as what I've been consuming this week, it is officially summer weather here and it's gotten hot here. So the number one thing back in my grocery rotation as soon as it starts getting into the 80s and 90s around here is the Fruit Frenzy bars from Trader Joe's. And these are so good. These are like maybe the perfect grown up ice pop, I would say. You know, when you were little and the ice cream truck would come around and you would get the firecracker and it would be red, white, and blue. This is like red, yellow, and pink, which is not only my preferred color scheme, but also 3 delicious flavors, which is raspberry, lemon, and strawberry. And again, these are essentially frozen popsicles. Absolutely love having these in my freezer and they're super affordable too. So if you are a Trader Joe's shopper, definitely try these on your next run. They are so helpful, especially on hot days. With that being said, let's get into today's topic. And I wanted to create this episode for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is totally on brand for create and consume. I know a lot of you who listen are either content creators or people who consume a lot of content, whether it's through legacy media or through content creators and social media platforms. But 2 things came across my desk like in the last few days that made me move this to the top of the episode list. So, number one is an article came out in the New York Times following the announcement of Anna Wintour stepping back from the editor in chief role at Vogue. She will still be present amongst Condé Nast if you've read everything about that switcheroo. But I do think this article, honestly, the end of it kind of sums up why social media platforms and content creators have become a go to source for news and content and why legacy media is struggling a bit. And frankly, a lot of it comes down to money. I'm going to link this article in the show notes. It is behind the Times paywall. So I'm just going to read the part at the end that really stuck out to me and was making me think even more about how content creators are the new media in some ways. In 2006, the Newhouses, who are very connected at Condé Nast, if you don't know. Okay, the Newhouses acquired a then obscure website called Reddit for roughly $10 million. The startup, a jumble of text-heavy message boards, allows anonymous commenters to weigh in on any topic imaginable. By 2012, so 6 years later, Reddit had more than 3 billion page views each month. In March 2024, it went public, with the Newhouses reaping a windfall of roughly 2.1 billion. A $10 million bet had yielded a 210 times return. To the extent that the new houses can keep bankrolling Vogue, Vanity Fair, and The New Yorker into the next decade, it may be thanks to a shrewd bet on an internet company whose scruffy egalitarianism is the antithesis of Conde's top down, we know best approach. And the cost of creating a Reddit post? Zero. And earlier in this article, I should say that they talked about one of the most expensive Vogue covers that was ever shot, which cost nearly $500,000. So, this big change in legacy media is definitely one reason that I wanted to talk more about this. And then another reason is I've been hanging out on Threads a lot lately, as one who doesn't really find much value in X anymore tends to do as a substitute. And I just saw a bunch of different threads this week along the lines of YouTube partner program paid my rent this month, like don't stop creating, or the TikTok creator fund covered my car bill this month. And it just is such proof that content creation is really this equal opportunity in a sense where anyone could get started at any time on any platform and see results. And there's not as much of a barrier to entry today as there was a few years back when you needed really specific equipment. People were producing more high quality curated photos. Whereas now you can be a very off the cuff content creator. You can film videos in your car. You can film videos while you're cooking breakfast. You can film videos with your friends and family, and anyone essentially has the chance to have that content seen by tens of thousands of users on those given platforms. I feel like there's even been a huge increase lately of legacy editors and media personalities launching Substacks, trying to own their audience, launch their own independent platforms. And so I think that really does all tie back into content creation, and it's easy to see why this is such a desirable career and also why this has become the go-to way that most people are getting information these days. And if you know me, though, you know that I want legacy media to survive as well. I come from media. I'm a former magazine editor, if you don't know, and I think it's very important to have high journalistic integrity and standards in the work that we consume, especially like on a big level and especially about what's going on in our country and these big important events. But I'm also someone who will sit down and watch a silly TikTok that's like 3 minutes long of like Tim and Sydney doing their commentary on the Disney Channel original movies. Like, I would like to live in a world where both types of content exist. And as with my content over the years, if you followed me for a long time, I have long helped creators get started with content. And that's something that I just know so much about and feel like I have really good expertise in from over the years. So I thought for today's episode, I could focus this mostly for people who have maybe dabbled a little bit in content creation or have maybe had one or two videos kind of pop off and wonder, like, do I have something here, to help you visualize what this would all look like. And you don't have to want to be a full-time content creator, but if you're someone who thinks you can use content creation to supplement your income or help you achieve another goal, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, you should absolutely use it to your advantage. And the time to start is just right now. When I first started taking my content creation seriously, I was overwhelmed with everything I didn't know, but I figured it out step by step. And today I want to help you do the same. So we're going to talk about business setup. We're going to talk about choosing platforms, creating your vision, and more. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back and relax, or, keep walking if you're on a walk, or keep driving if you're driving, or doing all the different things. I'm always curious what people do when they listen to podcasts. Usually I'm cleaning or folding laundry or walking. So those are kind of my trifecta right there for when and how I listen to podcasts. But let's start out with crafting a mission statement or a vision for your brand. And it's okay if you don't have this figured out from day one, but I think having a general idea of the direction you want to go in and what you want your content overall to look like, feel like, whether that has to do with the music that you choose or the fonts that you're using or the ways that you always start a video. I think finding both that tone consistency and then also that visual consistency can be really helpful to become instantly recognizable by your audience online. And creating a mission statement as a content creator is something my friend Emma talks about a lot. Her podcast is called The Creative Edition. I will also link that in the show notes. She's had me on a couple of times, which is very kind of her. So I can link an episode that I've done with her, but she talks a lot about having a mission statement as a content creator. I recently revisited my mission statement during my rebrand, which, if you want to see the process of me actually like rewriting my launch copy, rewriting my about page stuff, choosing the new podcast art. I filmed the whole behind the scenes of that process of how I actually rebranded everything, like when I chose a launch date and how I rolled everything out. That is in a vlog on my YouTube channel that I can link in the show notes if you are more of a visual person with this type of thing. But the new mission statement that I chose to reflect my content and what you can expect from my channels is that I am building a balanced and creative life in the city and documenting it all online. I ultimately landed on this mission statement because to me, it is both specific enough to attract the type of audience member who I think would enjoy my content, which looking at my analytics is usually millennial and Gen Z women who live in or near major cities, mostly in the US. But it's also broad enough to give me a few different types of content that I could talk about within that. Like, what does building a balanced and creative life in the city look like? That involves what you wear, your makeup, your home, your routines, what to do in and around those areas. It gives me a little bit more flexibility in the topics that I can cover, which is something that I talked about when I shifted my YouTube channel and did that pivot last year because I felt very boxed in to just giving content creator tips and feeling like I was excluding the rest of my life and that I basically just became like a little information vessel with no personality, which is not who I am, as you know, if you know me and if you listen to this show. So I think a few questions you could ask yourself when trying to craft this mission statement are: who do you want to help? What do you want to create? What do you want people to feel when they come over to your profiles and pages, and why would someone want to follow along or be a part of that journey? Also, when it comes to actually monetizing your content, like if you're a little bit beyond what I'm talking about here and you have a consistent presence and you're trying to add more income streams to your business, I have a whole course about how to do that. It's called the Influencer Income Accelerator, but module 1, lesson 1 of that course actually covers this exact topic, and it comes along with a worksheet called the Dream Big Brain Dump, where you can really write out your vision for what you want your influencer business to look like. So if you're a little more advanced from what I'm talking about here, you already are maybe monetizing through brand deals, but you're looking to add additional income streams to your business, I will link information about the course in the show notes as well. But as far as this mission statement goes, try crafting a few different options in a Google Doc or your Notes app. You can also utilize AI assistants like ChatGPT to say, hey, here's like 5 options I'm considering for my mission statement. Can you help me consolidate these into one? Or is there one that stands out based on, like, here's my Instagram profile, which one matches best visually with what's shown here? You could ask a friend for their opinion who you trust. I just think that having a second set of eyes on it, whether those eyes are real or not, is a good way to learn a little bit more about how it might be perceived for other people and not just how it sounds in your head. Because I've talked about this in previous episodes, but sometimes creating in a bubble can just mean that you get in a loop with your own thoughts and you don't want to get stuck and not be able to progress or move along. Okay, now let's talk about choosing a primary platform to post consistent content on. And I think this will vary so much depending on which platform you started with. Usually the one that you've started with is the easiest one to focus in on, but sometimes you might start on a platform that you feel like isn't the right fit for you after you've been doing it for a little while. One example of this is there are clearly a lot of bloggers who had very strong presences online and were very consistent with their blogs for years, who have now chosen to move over and focus on Instagram because that's where they see more community engagement. Maybe that's where they're getting more brand work, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe the blog is not something that they're updating as frequently. I think that in an ideal world, picking one social platform to focus on is really the key because you don't want to feel like you have to be everywhere all at once and get burned out. I feel like I am able to post consistently on various different platforms at this point because I really have a system down of how I distribute the content that I create. And it's not something that drains me. It's something that, again, I just have like a really clear system about what goes where and how I promote different things that I create. So it's no longer a point of stress for me to show up on multiple platforms. Sometimes I go through waves of liking one platform more than others. And I think that's really like common as a content creator. But I would say the very best thing to do when you're first starting out is to pick one place to kind of show up and be consistent. And sometimes this will also be a factor given on the type of content that you create. But really, I think choosing one platform to focus on, like doing one thing really well versus trying to do a bunch of different things just averagely is a smart way to go about it. And you might also make this decision based on the medium of content that you're creating. If you're creating written content, that is probably going to appear either on a blog or in a Substack newsletter. If you are creating audio content, it's probably going to be a podcast of some sort. If you're creating long form video content, YouTube is really the dominant platform for that. If you're creating short form video content, you could be on Instagram, TikTok, or even Pinterest. And if you create photo first content, then probably Instagram and Pinterest will be the primary places that you are posting to. But let me tell you a little bit more about what I personally think about all of the different social platforms, and hopefully this can help you decide where to spend your time and which platform is the right fit for you. Let's start out with TikTok, because I find that most content creators who didn't mean to become content creators got their start on TikTok, and it's easy to see why. TikTok is an app where you can film and create and distribute your short form video content with ease. The built-in editing tools on TikTok is really what I think has democratized content creation in the last few years and made it so much more accessible and available to people who were not previously content creators. They just make it so easy to film within the app and upload and engage with your audience that it's like actually the easiest possible way to get started, I think. TikTok also has a bit of a loose algorithm, which I would say now Instagram Reels has adopted as well, where essentially your content gets shown to a small group of people. Depending on how those people react to it and engage with it, then it could get shown to a larger group of people. But if you're not breaking through that initial group of people that TikTok is showing your content to, you will probably stall out pretty early on. That being said, there is a lot of potential to go viral on TikTok, and also the comments section, I feel like, of TikTok is a very engaged place to be. So it can be a really easy way to build community. It can also be a really way for comments to run amok and for people to say whatever they want. And people do have some unhinged comments on TikTok, I've noticed. But ultimately, it's really easy and user friendly. It can be a lot less polished. It does not have to be perfect in any way. And I think that is the big appeal of starting on a platform like TikTok. I will say, if you have been on TikTok, but you want to expand to other platforms, the easiest thing to do is to hook up your TikTok to repost on YouTube Shorts. There's even a website called Repurpose.io that you can do this through that I can link in the show notes. And on a similar note, to post the TikToks to Instagram so that you kind of have your bases covered and that you're able to post in a few different locations and also get a sense of what people like from you on different posting platforms. Now, I'm recording this episode a little bit early. At the time I'm recording right now, allegedly, Trump says that he has a buyer for TikTok. TikTok is still at risk of being sold in the United States or potentially still being banned, depending on how things work out. For this reason, if TikTok has been your primary posting platform, I would highly suggest starting to build an audience on other platforms as well. Now let's go and talk about Instagram. Instagram is a pretty reliable all-in-one platform. It is owned by Meta, which is a United States-based company, so you don't have to worry about that going away necessarily anytime soon. And I think Instagram is really great for both visual storytelling and also building community. Instagram, to me, is where my community lives in a sense, because you have comments, but you also have DMs. The ability to directly message and communicate with some of your favorite content creators, I think, is one thing that definitely sets Instagram apart. They've also created broadcast channels, which, to be honest, I haven't explored because I think I would be a little overwhelmed at the thought of having a broadcast channel, even though I know it's not that serious. But the fact that they have all of these different ways and methods to like constantly be in contact and in touch with your audience, I think is something that is so crucial, especially for a new content creator, to be responding to comments, answering questions, replying to DMs as much as you can. It is kind of hard to have that much accessibility to you if you're not used to that, but it is also one of the best tools at your disposal to build a really engaged community. Now, Instagram has been very interesting over the years. To me, it's the platform I've been posting on the longest and the most consistently. So therefore, it's the most frustrating to me that I have not seen growth on Instagram when I consider to be posting quality content. But at the same time, Instagram is sort of the modern day business card. It's not a platform that I would ever get rid of. It's a platform, though, that I could see myself scheduling content out for and taking a break from here and there. But at the end of the day, it is a really central hub to be seen and be discovered. You can talk nonchalantly on stories. You can go live on Instagram. Like there is so much functionality within it that is really helpful for a content creator to kind of cover all of their bases. Next, I want to talk about Pinterest. I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand, like, why should I be on Pinterest specifically? Like, what about Pinterest can really help me as a content creator? And the best way that I can kind of sum it up is really Pinterest is like a content sprinkler where you create content. If you want to distribute it and just get it in front of more eyeballs, Pinterest is one of the easiest ways to do that. Pinterest is the third largest search engine behind Google and YouTube. And what's really cool about Pinterest is that it's a visual search engine. So if you're already creating very visual forward short form video content or photo content on TikTok or Instagram, there's really nothing to lose by sharing it on Pinterest as well. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about how I schedule out a month's worth of content on Pinterest in a single hour. So I can link that in the show notes if you are like, oh yeah, I have all this content that I've been posting to Instagram and TikTok. Like I would love to start getting it onto Pinterest. If you have an hour and you put on like, Love Island in the background while you're watching it on just like a afternoon that you have free one day, you would be surprised how much you will be able to grow your Pinterest analytics and start building your presence on there by even just scheduling out like 1 month of content. So that's something that's really been baked into my content creation routine. And again, people are like, how are you always so up to date on your Pinterest? Like if you go look at my Pinterest right now, you'll see all the photos from all my recent blog posts. You'll hopefully see all my recent outfits from LTK. It's just I have it built into my workflow at this point where I'm able to easily schedule things out and make sure that I am doing the extra work to kind of distribute and market my own content, which sounds exhausting, but when I have these systems in place, like how I schedule content in an hour, that's basically what makes this possible for me. So, like I said, I'll link that in the show notes. And now we're going to get into some more long form content options. And if you are still building up a presence on a short form platform, I would highly, highly suggest adding in one of these long form methods as well, because there's just so much more that you get to know about someone when you are spending more than like 90 seconds with them. So one is YouTube. This is long form content, typically evergreen or typically like a deeper dive into a specific topic with a person. And I feel like YouTube is the one everyone's most intimidated by. I'm here to tell you though, if I had my iPhone 15 in 2006, you guys, I would be so famous right now. I would have been making YouTube videos left and right because it's just so easy. The quality is so good, the audio is so good. Like there's just nothing that you can't make with your phone these days. And honestly, I feel like that's the best way to start YouTube. Think about if there's any type of video that you create on like TikTok or Instagram that you could just extend slightly. Long form on YouTube is anything 3 minutes or longer. It does not have to be a full feature length film by any means, and it does not have to be highly edited if that's not your style. But the reward and the payoff from creating long form content on YouTube, especially once you start getting into all of the different monetization methods there, is actually really insane. So that is why YouTube is my personal favorite platform and why it's the platform that I will probably always create for in some way, shape, or form. I also think it's so important that I have video for the podcast. It's why I started a YouTube channel for the podcast. So if you're just listening to me on Spotify or Apple, you can watch any episode on YouTube as well. There's always the video option. I'm the first to admit, by the way, this is not the most interesting video. Like, I'm literally just sitting at my desk chatting with you, although I do have a cute hairstyle going on today. So if that interests you, you could always click over to the video. But in the future, I would love to have a more cute backdrop to do this at, but I didn't care about that from the get-go. I just wanted the videos of every episode to exist so that if someone discovers the podcast on YouTube, they can binge the content. If I'm able to build up my followers on YouTube, I could hopefully monetize the podcast channel through ad revenue as well. And I just really feel like video is one of the top ways that people are consuming podcasts these days too. So if you are watching on YouTube, leave a little comment for me so I know you're here. But even for my own YouTube channel, I have been posting for about 8 years now. And I always say that YouTube is one of the reasons I'm able to be a full-time content creator, even with a small audience. And that's because there are so many different ways to monetize and to build sustainable income streams through your long form video content that I feel like are just harder to come by on short form unless you have like thousands and thousands of followers. Okay, moving on to podcasting. Now, podcasting I think is also hard to grow unless you are like a celebrity. Like I know Amy Poehler recently launched a podcast that is charting and doing really well right now. Clearly, she's a big name, and there's a reason for that. But there are so many amazing small niche podcasts that don't really monetize at all, but are there because they want to build a deeper connection with their audience. That is definitely one of the primary reasons that I started a podcast, was because I really wanted a chance to share more of my personality, spend more time with my audience, and kind of to have the option to like take me on the go if you want. So again, like if you're driving and running around right now or running errands or waiting for your kids after their after school activities or whatever it is you're doing, like to be able to hang out with each other while you're doing that is something that I think is super cool. And I know that I feel like the podcast that I listen to, like I'm friends with the host and that we're like hanging out. And I think that form of intimacy, being able to like talk directly to someone and feel like, oh, they're talking to me specifically. Again, that's what I love about podcasts and what has made me become such a more like loyal follower of someone when I know so much and I'm so invested in what they're doing and what they're talking about. Plus, I was just genuinely curious because podcasting kind of felt like the last corner of content creation that I hadn't like dipped my toe into yet. So the fact that I really just wanted to see what is it like to produce a podcast, like how does it work to upload it, how do you get it on all the different platforms, how is it different than what I typically have done for like YouTube in the past or what I do for my blog posts or even what I do on Instagram. And it has been so different, and it's also been so rewarding and so fun to start this podcast and keep up with it every week. I'm really proud of how consistent I've been able to be, which I think is something you really have to commit to if you are going to start a podcast. I don't know about you, but as soon as a weekly podcast skips like 2 episodes in a row, I'm like, what the heck? Like, where'd you go? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just something that I think is really helpful with podcasting. Podcasting is also a great way to build authority in a particular niche if you're working towards more of like a long-term goal in your head. We are going to talk about long-term goals next. For me, Create and Consume is much more of a lifestyle brand and lifestyle podcast. Like, I'm not here to show up each week and just talk about one singular thing. I'm here to show up each week and talk about a ton of different topics that I think will be interesting to you that I could talk about for hours and really just spend time. However, if you do ultimately want to work towards, you know, being an authority in one particular niche or launching something as a result of your podcast, I think that this can obviously be a super helpful way to start to like build that really engaged community of listeners. And then last but not least, blog and Substack. I kind of put these two together, not because they're the same by any means. I actually think they're quite different, especially in terms of how you monetize. But we're talking about long form writing here, which I think is something that people are starting to crave again. And I think that is something that obviously legacy media has a huge advantage of with content creators. Like the writers who have been doing this for a long time and who have honed their craft and are known voices at these legacy publications, they already have all of that going for them. This has more so been a way for content creators who maybe did have a blog and then moved to Substack, or who have mostly created short form content up until a point and who want to branch out and grow their audience in a different way, can kind of get behind and experiment with. So this is another way to build know, like, and trust with someone through your long form content. And it's also a great way to build an audience off of social media platforms, which I think is something really important that you should definitely be thinking about in long-term goals. So to summarize, choosing a platform, I would say pick one short form platform and one long form platform where you can create kind of complementary content. Now, let's talk a little bit about long-term goals. This is something that I've joked about in the past where I'm like, do you guys think I'm going to be like 60 or 70 and still be like, okay, guys, here's the new Laneige lip sleeping mask, like this flavor of, I don't know, liquid gold or whatever we have in the future. Like, can't wait to try it on and check it out. I'm so curious to think about what content creation will look like long term. But I will say, I feel like for most people, content creation, whether they realize it or not, it could be something you truly love and want to do for a long time. But for a lot of people, it can also be a means to an end. So, what do you want content creation to ultimately help you do? And always have this in the back of your head when you're creating content and when you're talking to people. and when you're brainstorming what you actually want to be posting about. To give a few examples, maybe you ultimately want to become an author and publish a book. Maybe you want to do some public speaking. Maybe you want to launch your own product, or maybe you want to quit your day job and create more freedom in your schedule. So there is no right or wrong answer here. You can also like have a light bulb moment several years into creating content about the direction you want to take things in and what you want to do. I mean, for me personally, like launching a podcast, obviously, first and foremost, I'm here to chat with you guys and build a deeper connection. It would be great if people who listen to the show are like, oh, she should like host this thing or she should moderate this panel. I love speaking opportunities and I especially love doing so in an IRL format because it just means that I get to like feel the energy of a room and like meet more people and do stuff like that. So it would be cool if in the future someone who was listening to the podcast was like, oh, we need to get her to moderate this panel about this thing. I love doing stuff like that. So that's not something I'm actively like pitching myself on or pursuing, but it is something in the back of my head where I'm like, oh, if people like me hosting a podcast, maybe they could also like me speaking or hosting different opportunities. So that's kind of one way to look at it. And then I would also ask yourself, what do you want your ideal day to look like? Because your ideal day might look like waking up, going to your job, and then in the evenings being creative and using content creation as your creative outlet. Having multiple income sources is something that I think is absolutely doable and something that I encourage if you're like, I do not want to be a full-time content creator and put the pressure on myself. What I'm saying here about being in your entrepreneur era can apply to however you envision content creation becoming that side hustle or that project that can help you grow your income or add more freedom to your schedule or whatever your ultimate end game is, like we're talking about here. Because I'll be the first to tell you, being a full-time content creator is not for the faint of heart. I literally had a breakdown about my job last month. That was not fun. It has happened a couple of times over the years. Some days I'm like, I'm on top of the world. I'm doing everything right. And other days I'm like, have I ever done any work for anyone ever? You know what I mean? So even 4 years in, I still have things that I'm trying to figure out and a little bit of like imposter syndrome and those types of mental blocks that I try to overcome. And yeah, it truly is not for everyone. And if you want to stay in a full-time job and pursue this on the side, by all means do so. But on that note, like, do you ever envision yourself growing a team? Do you want to do something fully solo? What kind of lifestyle do you see for yourself? And one thing that I always say to people who are thinking about making the leap to being a full-time content creator is go take one PTO day from your work, like find a day that you can take off and wake up and pretend that you're living a day in the life as a full-time content creator and like act out your day in a sense. Like, what do? You wake up, you make breakfast, maybe you put your breakfast on your Instagram stories, then you sit down at your computer and you're like, okay, I have all day to create whatever I want. Like, are you writing blog posts? Are you pitching brands? Are you going live for your audience? Like, what is a typical day in your life actually going to look and feel like if you spend the whole day doing the content creator thing? I feel like that is always very eye-opening for people to actually live through day to day. And these are all things to think about when you set goals at the top of the year, or if you set goals at the beginning of each quarter. We're right at the start of Q3 now, so it's not too late to set goals for this upcoming quarter if you're listening as this episode is airing. Or you could even pick goals for a new month or a new week. It doesn't have to be so stringent. It's not like, oh, I missed my chance to like say that I wanted to do this in January. Like, no, if you want to do it now, start now. There's no one stopping you and there's no reason not to. I will say there are some great goal setting tools and frameworks that I love. Obviously, you guys know I use my Notion goals and planning hub literally every day in my business. Could not live without it. I will link it in the show notes because I do sell it on my website. This is basically where I can see a full breakdown of my goals for the whole year and where my weekly tasks directly tie back into my quarterly and then yearly goals so that I always know I have something that week that is helping me work towards the goals I set at the beginning of the year. It's become such an amazing way for me to stay accountable. I have been using this system for, I guess, like 2.5 years now. So it's very effective for me. And that's why I created a template version of it to share with you as well, if that's of interest. I also love creating a vision board. I have a whole YouTube video about how to create a vision board I can link in the show notes. Also utilizing Google Calendar and doing a fun Google Calendar setup, changing the colors to make it look pretty, blocking out your days however feels best for you, and also potentially finding an accountability partner. I mean, you could join Facebook groups of other content creators, you could ask on Instagram or TikTok. Hopefully, you've maybe connected with a few other creators in the time that you've started posting and growing your account. Maybe there's someone in there too who you could be like, hey, do you want to actually make sure that we get our shit done this week? And they could say, like, yes, let's do that. Let's set up check-ins. Let's set up quarterly check-ins or monthly check-ins, whatever it is. But having an accountability partner can be really great. Caitlin and I are pretty good about doing this like once a quarter to kind of check in with each other about stuff. So I really appreciate having access to someone who is willing to sit down and do that with me the same way I'm willing to sit down and do that for them. Now, since we're talking about entrepreneur stuff and entrepreneurship implies business and making money, let's do a little monetization brainstorm and talk about how you want to monetize your content. And at first, it might seem like I just want to use all the ways to monetize, but I feel like I am a good example of why that's not always the right call and why some income streams are great for some creators and make no sense for other creators. What I mean by that too is maybe you are a big TikTok content creator and you're known for your quick, like 5-second funny viral videos. But if you go to launch a Patreon, people might not be willing to actually like hand over their money to you in the form of fan funded content because maybe they don't actually know anything about you. Maybe they just know the character you're portraying online and you are racking up great views and great money through the TikTok Creator Fund. And that is a better income stream fit for you than if you were to launch a Patreon where people don't know what they're going to get on Patreon. That's not already coming through in your TikTok content. But I was doing a consulting session with someone who owns a service-based business and creates content to support the service-based business and does not want to be like a straight up influencer slash content creator. And we were talking about ways to potentially monetize her blog that is a part of her service-based business website. And one initial thought that I had was for her to utilize affiliate links. But the more I talked to her and the more we got into the conversation, it became clear that that wouldn't actually be something that makes a lot of sense for her to utilize because she really highlights and supports a lot of small indie brands that don't necessarily have their own affiliate programs and that are not able to like sign up for a platform like LTK or ShopMy, probably because it's too expensive. It just wouldn't make very much sense for this person who's so focused on uplifting indie designers and showcasing their unique pieces to post a bunch of like affiliate links to ways to essentially get the look at a really cheap price for really poor quality. It just doesn't feel authentic to this person and their business. So the way I like to ask the question when you're deciding on an income stream is also like who ultimately pays creators and who would you rather get paid out by? One way creators get paid is by brands. So if you're doing sponsored content or a sponsored partnership, usually either the brand or like a third-party agency that represents the brand is going to be the one directly paying you for that. Advertisers also pay creators. So this is primarily through ad networks like the YouTube Partner Program, which you can qualify for if you post enough and get enough watch time over on YouTube, or also a blog ad network. So for example, I am with Journey by Mediavine is the blog ad network that I am on for Keep Calm and Chiffon. And so they pay me out each month based on how many page views I get and how many people view and engage with the ads on my site. You can also get paid by affiliate networks. So some of the big ones are LTK, ShopMy, Collective Voice, Amazon affiliates. You could get paid by your actual fans. So this is one of the things I was talking about with Patreon. I would say Patreon and Substack are probably the two like most prominent fan funded options that I can think of. YouTube does have memberships. Instagram and TikTok, I believe, both have subscriptions, which I have so many different feelings about memberships. I actually had a Patreon for 2.5 years that I ultimately decided to close and move on from because I found it really hard to scale. And I also found it really hard to charge any more than what I was charging for the content that I was providing. If I really wanted to monetize my Patreon to a higher degree, I would have either needed a higher volume of paying members inside of my subscription, or I would have needed to really increase the price for the amount of paid members who were there. And I didn't really feel like creating content beyond what I was already doing each month for the Patreon. So I ultimately decided that it wasn't the right fit for me. I do actually have a whole YouTube video about why I closed my Patreon where I talk about that more in depth. So if you've been considering a fan funded model, honestly, I would watch that video before you launch a Substack or start a Patreon. And the last way creators can get paid is by platforms themselves. So that could be through like Meta's Breakthrough Bonus Program, the TikTok Creator Fund. Pinterest used to have creator rewards, RIP. That was quite a time to be alive, if I do say so myself. I think the easiest methods for when you're first starting out are through creator funds, like namely the TikTok Creator Fund, or through Meta content monetization, or through affiliate links, because affiliate links don't cost the person anything. Like you are providing them a link, they go to make a purchase, and then you happen to get a percentage of that purchase. It's not like they are individually going out of their way to hand you like $5. You know what I mean? I think that fan funding and actually having people hand over money to you is one of the hardest ways to monetize. And you have to have a really strong personal brand and something really valuable to offer if you are going to be asking for people to hand over like cold hard cash almost to you. This also brings up the question and the debate of more active versus passive income stream. One example of an active income stream is brand deals, because you actually need to be creating the content, answering emails, reading through the contract, and so on. Whereas ad networks are honestly a great passive income stream. And the way that I always explain passive is like, I don't have to go outside of the normal scope of work that I'm already doing to make money. Once I'm signed up for my blog ad network, anytime I publish a new blog post that's bringing in traffic to my site, I'm making money. And I would be writing those blog posts anyway. So to me, I don't have to add some extra step to my workload. That is why that feels truly like passive income to me. And again, if you're like really serious about this, my digital course, the Influencer Income Accelerator, breaks all of this down. Module 2 is actually lessons based entirely on these different types of passive income streams and how to figure out which ones are the most optimal for you to use. So that is something that I go into very in depth over there. I did also want to touch on legal business setup, because if you actually want to take things seriously and make this a true supplemental income stream for you, whether it ultimately becomes a full-time job for you or whether it's just a side hustle that you are really in love with, having the T's crossed and the I's dotted, so to speak, when it comes to the legal and financial aspects of your business is pretty important. So I just wanted to talk through a few things to consider here. I will say, though, I did a whole video where I interviewed Veronica, who is my lawyer. It sounds silly to say she's my lawyer because she's not just my lawyer, but she is a lawyer who specializes in content creators and content creation, who I have used over the years to help set up trademarks for my business. So she has helped me secure trademarks for my blog and my digital course. We are almost secured with a trademark, I believe, for this podcast, which is really exciting as well. So I did a whole YouTube video with her where we talked about what you need to do from a legal perspective to set up your influencer business. And I can link that in the show notes. Definitely also go reach out to her with any follow-up questions. She is the professional you should speak to. As a reminder, I am not a lawyer. I am not a tax professional. This is all for educational purposes only. One thing I would say, though, if you are serious about this being a business and if you are starting to make any money at all from content creation, it is a smart idea to protect yourself legally. So I would highly suggest creating an LLC for your business as a content creator. If in the future you surpass a certain income bracket, you could look at transitioning to an S Corp, but at least having a single member LLC is going to be pretty important. The reason for it being that if you ever run into issues, a brand is suing you because of something you said about their product, they can only come after the worth of the company. They can't come after your personal money. That is one big reason why you want to register your business with your local government and protect yourself legally. I literally set up my LLC by watching a YouTube video that was like how to set up an LLC in the state of New Jersey. So that's how I did that, and it was very easy and straightforward. So I promise it's not that scary and it does not take very long to do. From here, you'll be able to get an EIN, which is an employer identification number. This is also good because then you have a number for tax purposes that's associated with your business. And because as freelancers and contractors, as content creators, that's how brands typically work with us. we have to send around a lot of tax forms, and this way your social security number is not floating around just in inboxes all over the place. You have a separate number that is directly tied to your business and your tax ID, so that's super helpful. Not only do you get the benefits of having an EIN and these legal protections, but registering your business makes it all the more legit. It makes it feel real. It makes it feel like you are actually working somewhere tangible and that it's not all in your head. Because I know for me, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm just uploading like my silly little TikToks and my silly little YouTube videos. No, like it's a business at the end of the day. And that is something that I feel like people don't see when you're posting and creating content online is really the thought behind everything, the intentionality, and the level of seriousness with which you treat content creation. It all comes back to your perspective and your attitude on the matter. And that is something that I think about every day. I would also say the second that you start earning any money as a content creator, to just track it somewhere. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be crazy. It could be a Google sheet. Just make sure that you are tracking income and expenses. And this is going to be something that is hugely helpful come tax season when you actually have to file taxes for creator income that you've made. Don't say you're going to chase down every single receipt in April, because I promise you, you're not going to want to do that. And if you're a course student of IIA, you get the exact income tracker that I actually use for my business as well. Okay, and then some rapid fire thoughts to end off the episode. The first thing I would say is you really get out of content creation what you put into it. If you just want to be a casual creator from time to time and upload a video when you go somewhere cool or when you think of something funny to say, that's obviously fine, but you're not going to grow a sustainable online brand that way. So if you are serious about leveling up, making additional money from content creation, starting to build a presence online to help support whatever it is you want to do in the future, being consistent and putting in the effort is so important. I would also say learning about the industry is super important. Clearly, there are tons of resources out there that you can do that through. I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel called Creator Tips with over 150 videos where I give tips for content creators. And obviously, you just listened to this podcast episode, so you're doing a great job already. I think just learning about the world that you're working in can give you a big benefit. Again, being aware of what's happening in the news. I'm recording this episode a little bit ahead of time, so hopefully nothing has changed with the TikTok situation since I've recorded this, but that's the way the industry moves. It moves so quickly that it possibly could have. So always just knowing what's going on, where you want to create content, and what your end game is. I would also add that consistency matters more than perfection. I say this all the time because if I was worried about perfection, I never would have uploaded my first YouTube video, which is still live on my channel if you want to scroll all the way back and watch it. It is backlit. The audio is echoey. And also, I think the air conditioner is on, so it's echoey and hard to hear. I'm out of focus. But if I had never uploaded that first video, I wouldn't have over 20,000 subscribers now and over 4 million views on my channel, which I saw that metric come through on TubeBuddy recently. And I was like, huh, that's actually quite a lot of views considering most of my YouTube content is long form. So that's pretty wild. On that note of views, actually, I would also add going viral isn't always what's best for your platforms, especially if you happen to go viral about something really random. I think you can use virality to potentially snowball and grow your audience if something that you are really passionate about goes viral, or something that you really love goes viral. That's great. And you can build on that momentum, turn it into a series, and hopefully snowball your growth. But if you go viral for something that's like not quite right or not really reaching the right audience, it can be kind of hard to come back from that. So again, I think that's important to think about for every single video you post. Like if for some reason this was the one that blew up, what kind of audience would it attract to me and how would it make me feel about my content? I also think that setting boundaries and creating systems to help creating stay enjoyable for you is really important. So for me, I used to write blog posts on nights and weekends when I was working full time. I really try to log off for nights and weekends now. I don't always do a great job of it, but I try to at least give a little bit of space. I would want to make sure I'm spending quality time with like Andrew, or I'm seeing my friends, and I'm really logging off and giving my brain a break from the screens and the scrolling and the comparisons. And I think that that is super important, especially if you do pursue content creation full time. Also, setting systems and tracking everything. Like, if I fail, it's only my fault. So I'm only letting myself down, which can put a lot of pressure on you. So if you can create systems and set goals and give yourself clear paths towards achieving those goals, you're going to feel a lot better about the progress that you're making, and you're going to see more results over time. So again, I love Notion for goal setting. If Google Calendar is what you want to use, go for it. You could even use a good old fashioned pen and paper notebook to set and track goals. It is really just about having some kind of system in place that works for you and helps keep you on track, so that while you're on track with that kind of stuff, you have more freedom to be creative. It's a very weird concept to think about being restrictive to be more creative, but sometimes within restrictions is where we get the most creative. And the last tip that I would leave you with is to really invest in what works for you and what makes sense for you, and not worry as much about what you see as working for other people. And that can be hard sometimes. I know a lot of people who might post like 10 to 15 stories a day with affiliate links in it. That's just not me. Like, I don't mind sharing sale content when things are happening. I also do believe it's Prime Day when this episode is airing. Yeah, I think so. Good for those creators. I feel like that's just never going to be me. Like, I will share sale content when it comes up. I might put it more so on my blog or in my email newsletter, but I'm not going to be spamming my Instagram stories with links every single day for things to shop, just because that's not my favorite thing to consume. And I feel like that's not what my audience expects from me. But if it works for you, if your whole account is like best Target finds or something, like absolutely be linking everything. You know what I mean? Anyway, I really appreciate you guys listening to today's episode. And if there's anything I mentioned in today's episode that you want me to expand on or do like a dedicated episode on, please leave me a comment, send me a DM on Instagram at Create and Consume Pod. Let me know what you think and what you want to hear more about. But I hope this has left you feeling empowered and excited to fully embrace your entrepreneur era. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.